You know this person. They have brilliant ideas, elaborate plans, the naive sparkle in the eyes of inveterate dreamers. They talk enthusiastically about 1,000 projects, are always imagining new achievements, but everything always remains. In the realm of promises, there is never a lack of justification for not moving forward. My time hasn't come yet. Nobody values me. The universe is against me. It could be an old friend, a nephew, a boyfriend, even your father. Age doesn't matter. Emotionally, they remain stuck in the position of a boy, unable to make commitments, seeking freedom as an escape, avoiding real responsibilities. Maybe there's a thread of hope inside you that one day they'll mature. Jungian psychology calls this the puer aeternus, or the archetype of the eternal adolescent. It's someone who is always preparing for life, yet always on the verge of beginning. World is amazed by their freshness and creativity, but there's always a shadow behind it. A persistent difficulty in meeting the actual demands of existence. The puer lives under the illusion that the world will shape itself to their wishes, refuses challenging efforts, and expects others to bear the burden of responsibility. They idealize partners, jobs, friends, and the slightest noise from real life makes them withdraw, shut down, and return to the vicious circle of grand dreams never realized. They claim to be too special to be involved in routine, but deep down, it's fear. A fear of being wrong, of being frustrated, of growing up, that paralyzes and keeps things the same. If you've ever tried to help someone like this, you know how exhausting it can be. Advice goes in one ear and out the other, support gets lost, and every attempt to bring them into practical life seems useless. And to make matters worse, they make you doubt yourself, as if it were your fault for expecting maturity, for refusing to settle for an eternal almost. But the truth is, this cycle needs to be seen for what it really is. This man is caught in a subtle trap. He believes he lives in freedom, but that freedom is an escape, a delicate prison made of fear and refusal to grow up. If he doesn't face himself, time will pass and he'll reach the end with a life unlived. What I offer here isn't judgment, but an invitation to self-awareness. If you're still watching, it means that, on some level, you recognize this pattern. Maybe in someone you love, maybe in yourself. The journey of the puer aeternus doesn't need to end in paralysis. The turning point only comes when there's courage to face the truth without shortcuts. That's the turning point I want to talk about now. The puer isn't just a temperament. It's a powerful archetype. It works backstage in the mind, disguised as creativity, lightness, or rebellion. But behind it lies a deep refusal to mature, an instinctive drive not to grow up. Jung observed this pattern in ancient stories and in countless patients. The puer is the one who clings to the shelter of childhood, remains protected, waiting for life to resolve itself on its own. He lives under the promise of a miraculous tomorrow, but flees from the here and now. He feels special and outside the rules, but never takes the helm of his own life. You've seen scenarios like this, men in constant search of new professional experiences, unable to commit, exciting projects left halfway, intense relationships that sink at the first demand for maturity, beautiful speeches about spirituality or freedom, but no consistency in the small responsibilities of daily life. It's not a lack of intelligence or talent. The puer is often someone brilliant, sensitive, full of potential. He has a vibrant connection with creativity, inspiration, and fantasy. But precisely because of that, he stays up in the clouds of imagination and avoids the weight and solidity of reality. He wants to fly without shaping his own wings, seeks love without commitment, dreams of success without effort, wants all the rewards of adult life but without accepting the cost of growing up. When life doesn't deliver those wishes, frustration emerges. He turns his frustration towards the system, towards others, towards fate, never towards himself. Jung noted that the puer aeternus lives out of sync with time, always waiting for the right moment, the ideal partner, the perfect circumstances. He's never in the now. He's always waiting for that elusive when. Because of this, he ends up not really living. He survives, driven by unrealized dreams that gradually turn into heavy burdens. But there's a counterpart. Despite his immaturity, the puer holds onto a valuable, vital energy, the inner youth, the living creativity, the ability to renew his own story. The problem isn't having that boy inside the man. The danger is when he takes command of life. That's where we need to go deeper. When the pure's brilliance starts to fade, and the shadow takes the helm. Now let's unravel the dark side of this man-child, and understand how that shadow little by little corrodes and destroys everything around him. There is a special charisma in the man who embodies the puer aeternus. He is spontaneous, speaks passionately about everything he dreams, seems to hover above the limitations of daily life. His resistance to rules and labels makes him shine in the eyes of those who feel suffocated by everyday demands, who wouldn't want to share what appears to be an enviable freedom. But within that charm lies the danger. This freedom is only a veil, a device built to avoid facing what is most frightening, the concreteness of life. The puer is always running, from pain, from failure, from commitments, from real responsibilities. With each choice not made, with each abandoned path, the distance from maturity grows greater. In an attempt to avoid being captured by the weight, he limits himself to the realm of desire and fantasy, deepening his own prison and calling it freedom. You have probably come across this before. He rejects ordinary jobs because he can't stand routine, but what he truly feels is a fear of predictability. He rejects emotional bonds, claiming to defend his freedom, but in reality, he fears the depth of connection and vulnerability. Rules bother him because he doesn't know how to live with necessary limits. The much-vaunted freedom he shows off is, in fact, a refusal to commit to the hard work of truly existing. He needs lightness, runs away from weight, keeps moving endlessly, as if resting would bring to the surface everything he's escaping from. But time is unforgiving. Sooner or later, reality will demand you show up. Jung said the puer lives in suspension, between heaven and earth, without roots, without persistence, without surrender. But in the end, what doesn't put down roots also bears no fruit. Without facing pain, there can be no real growth. True freedom doesn't mean doing anything you want, but consciously embracing the commitments that really matter. The puer, however, doesn't commit. He always prefers the route of escape. And in this constant flight, he not only limits his own potential, but also gradually wears down everyone who tries to truly get close to him. It's this darker side of the puer aeternus that we're going to examine now, the moment when so many promises turn into frustration and pain. We'll delve into this shadow to understand how it can undermine relationships, projects, and lives. At first, everything is light. The puer seduces with enthusiasm and magnetism, inspiring others with his passionate and unpredictable nature. But as time goes by, what once fascinated becomes empty. The lightness turns into absence, sensitivity turns into a lack of control, and the much-celebrated freedom ends up revealing its true face, an escape and omission. It's at this turning point that the puer's shadow appears. This shadow is subtle but devastating. It shows itself in small acts of abandonment, deadlines missed, responsibilities forgotten, promises made and broken, plans that never take shape. Everything is justified with lofty words. I don't want to force myself. I need time. I'm searching for something bigger. But deep down, what paralyzes him is fear. Fear of growing up, of being frustrated, of being ordinary, of feeling the weight of reality. Without realizing it, the puer sabotages everything that demands growth. The puer's self-sabotage doesn't just affect himself. It sends ripples through everyone around him. Romantic partners suffer for loving someone who promises the world, but disappears at the most important moments. He talks about the future, but never even constructs the present. Family members feel the pain of seeing talent wasted, opportunities ignored, brilliance turning into repeated disappointments. Friends, little by little, wear out. The disappointment of the endless cycle of almost makes their support feel empty. Behind all of this, there lingers a suffocating feeling. It seems impossible to move forward, as if anchored in an endless emotional adolescence. The shadow of the puer, like every archetype, operates within the unconscious. He doesn't notice his own self-destruction, and often reverses the logic, blaming others for his stagnation. He judges the world as stagnant or cold, distrusts those who have matured, and feels betrayed when he sees someone choosing responsibility. So, he isolates himself, thinking he's preserving his true self, while he's only making his own chains stronger. Jung already taught, the light only arrives when we find the courage to illuminate the shadows. It's useless to deny or repress your inner child. You have to face him and bring awareness to what, hidden, controls your life. The cost of refusing to recognize this is turning the boy into a little tyrant, sabotaging any chance at real maturity. And this dynamic rarely appears out of nowhere. There is always something or someone feeding this cycle. Behind the puer, there is almost always a symbolic maternal figure. Someone who supports, protects, but also, involuntarily, suffocates and restricts. In the next section, we'll talk about this archetypal mother and how the invisible bond can easily become a prison. When caring turns to consuming instead of helping, it traps. This mother can be real, a mother who overprotected, intervened in every slip, solved problems before her son even tried on his own. In the name of love, she unintentionally stopped him from growing his own wings. But this maternal figure can also be symbolic. A partner, grandmother, or any woman who takes on the caregiver role by nurturing and sheltering, but even subtly demands constant loyalty in return. The result is a man who, instead of searching for a partner, keeps searching for his mother. He wants to be accepted without ever being challenged, supported without limits, and understood without confrontation. No matter how comfortable this relationship may seem, it suffocates both of them because it perpetuates the refusal to face adult life. As long as he remains in this symbolic embrace, he doesn't have to make decisions, face challenges, or mature, reinforcing the cycle of endless childhood where the women around him are seen as responsible for filling his emptiness. But the symbolic mother is also imprisoned by this dynamic. In her attempt to help, to give, and protect, she ends up feeding a mutual dependency that drains vitality from both. Jung warned, the greatest tragedy occurs when the mother doesn't allow the psychological birth of her son, condemning him to immaturity regardless of age. This situation gets more complicated in romantic relationships. The puer is enchanted by intensity, idealizes his partner, places in her all the answers for his emptiness. However, when the connection demands commitment, depth, and responsibility, he runs away, becomes cold, or shifts all the blame to the other person. At heart, he was never looking for a partner, but for someone to replace his mother. Breaking this cycle means confrontation, pain, separation. Only this break, this psychic withdrawal, allows for true maturity to begin. Growing up can be painful, but staying small, eternally dependent, is even more suffocating. Now it's time to face the challenge of maturity and the sometimes painful cost of leaving emotional childhood behind. Let's look at the real process of transformation. How the puer aeternus can finally break the cycle of escape and start building himself. Inevitably, a moment comes when the masks fall off. Unfulfilled projects turn into frustration, the pain of poorly resolved relationships leaves marks, and suddenly life no longer offers infinite chances. It's in this moment that the man dominated. Puer is forced to face his own truth. How long will he keep waiting, as if youth and opportunities were eternal? The moment of rupture comes when staying in childhood hurts more than facing the challenge of growing up. Maturity is never simple. Jung described the process as a painful birth. It takes courage to deal with frustration, to grieve for what never was, to accept that time doesn't stop and life happens in the present. The first step is to let the fantasy fall, to admit that the perfect moment doesn't exist, that no one is coming to save us. Maturity doesn't mean killing off your old self, but integrating it. Growing up is, above all, taking responsibility for yourself, letting go of waiting for life or someone else to solve things for you. This path begins with mourning, the farewell to idealization, to the comfort of symbolic dependence, to unreal promises. It's not about denying your inner child, but placing him under the care of the adult. Committing to adult life takes resolve. It means saying no, sticking with relationships, enduring routine, accepting routine as part of transformation. It means trading the impulse for novelty for the power of staying. Here's the key. When the puer is welcomed and transformed by the adult man, he isn't lost. He grows up. That creative energy, the innovative vision and intuition that once served escape, now join structure and discipline, gaining direction and purpose. That's where the true adult is born, not by killing the inner boy, but by putting his spark in the service of real life and enduring achievements. It's essential to remember. This process takes time and requires humility. Many men, at this stage, feel confused, discouraged, lost without a map or compass. They realize the time of psychological childhood is over, but fear the first steps of responsibility. And it's precisely to help those who are at this threshold that this video continues. From here on, we'll talk to those who want to change, but are still searching for the path to begin. This is the decisive moment to take ownership of your own growth. If you've made it this far, it's because in some way you feel the urgency of what has been shared, whether by recognizing this pattern in someone else or by seeing its reflection in yourself. There is no shame in that. At some point, all of us resist the demands of growing up, look for shortcuts, and wish for a comfort that would spare us the discomfort of maturing. But life is clear in its call. There is no ideal time or perfect scenario. What exists are decisions and choices. Crossing from the world of potential into the world of reality only happens when we consciously accept the invitation to grow. Don't wait until you feel ready. Decide with courage that it's time to move forward. Jung warned, those who refuse to face their own ghosts will keep stumbling over them along the way. The puer is one of these ghosts, seductive, charming, but capable of undermining the very root of adult life. It's not a matter of making it disappear. You need to integrate it, take responsibility, face it, and in doing so, finally become greater than it. Maturity blooms when you understand that there is no savior, and no one but you can build your own path. Taking responsibility stops being a punishment and becomes the key to growth. True freedom lies in having self-control and clarity to choose the right paths, not just the easiest ones. Share with me. Which part of this video made you reflect the most? Writing so often brings clarity to what we feel, and if these words resonated with you, share them. Sometimes someone close to you needs that push, needs to awaken to their own journey. I also invite you to continue. The next video goes even deeper into our conversation and will bring valuable insights for your process. Don't be scared by the discomfort growing up demands, but it sets you free. And in the end, that's exactly what changes everything.